Legendary director Rob Reiner and his wife Michele Singer Reiner were found deceased at their Los Angeles home. As the investigation continues, multiple sources have alleged that the couple were unalived by their son Nick. But authorities stress that the case remains under investigation and no conclusions have been reached. Rob Reiner's career shaped generations of movie lovers. His 1984 directorial debut, This Is Spinal Tap, set the tone, followed by unforgettable classics like Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men. These films didn't just entertain, they became cultural touchstones, and chances are at least one of them lives rent-free in your head.
How could you not want to be somebody who the world loves as a person, who they also respect as a talent, you know?
But behind the camera, there was also a love story that quietly influenced one of the most iconic romantic endings in film history. Reiner met Michele Singer in 1989 while working on When Harry Met Sally. They were introduced by the film's cinematographer, Barry Sonnenfeld, who thought they'd be a perfect match. And their first interaction? Not exactly a fairy tale moment. On a double date, Reiner told Michele, who was smoking at the time, "You know, you really shouldn't smoke, it's not good for your health." Without missing a beat, she shot back, "And you shouldn't be so effing fat." Somehow, that brutally honest moment became the start of something lasting. At the time, Reiner had been single for years and wasn't sure love was still in the cards for him. But meeting Michele changed that. He later admitted that their relationship directly reshaped When Harry Met Sally. Originally, Harry and Sally were supposed to meet years later and walk away from each other. After falling in love himself, Reiner rewrote the ending, giving us that New Year's Eve declaration and the marriage that made rom-com history. The timing was poetic. Rob and Michele married in 1989, the same year the film hit theaters. Together, they built a life that included 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy, and a partnership rooted in friendship. In a 2024 interview, Reiner credited the strength of their marriage to something surprisingly simple. "We get along just great and enjoy each other's company," he said. Simple, but rare. As for Michele Singer Reiner, she was far more than the director's wife. She carved out her own space in Hollywood as a photographer, producer, and actor. Michele worked on projects like Misery, acted in Mixed Nuts, and produced several of Reiner's later films and documentaries. She even earned an Emmy nomination for Albert Brooks' Defending My Life. And yes, fun bit of Hollywood trivia, she photographed Donald Trump for the cover of The Art of the Deal, something Reiner later joked she had to atone for.
You know, I do have a foot in politics.
Outside of film, the Reiners were deeply involved in activism, especially marriage equality and early childhood development. Michele, in particular, was a driving force. As Reiner once put it, "I can honestly say the reason I've done as many things in the political sphere is largely because of her." The Reiners family includes 4 children. Tracy Reiner, now 61, was adopted by Rob during his marriage to Penny Marshall and went on to act in films like Die Hard and A League of Their Own. Their youngest daughter, Romy, is 28 and has built a creative career as an actress, writer, producer, and photographer. Jake, 34, followed his own path into journalism, becoming a television reporter. And Nick, who is 32, has previously spoken openly about his struggles with addiction and homelessness, later sharing how he found recovery and used those experiences to inspire his creative work.
If your kid is going through rough times, you know, the parent your main job is to keep your child safe. So I would do anything.
As details continue to emerge, law enforcement has emphasized that no arrests have been made and no one has been officially identified as a suspect. This remains a developing and incredibly sensitive situation, one that has placed the Reiner family under an intense and painful spotlight. With their passing, the Reiners join a heartbreaking list of notable figures we've lost as the year comes to a close. Just a few weeks ago, Richard Branson experienced his own heartbreak with the passing of his wife, Joan, marking yet another painful moment in a year already heavy with farewells. "She was my rock, my guiding light, my best friend." That was the line Richard Branson shared when he announced that his wife of nearly 4 decades, Joan Templeman, had passed away at 80. Branson has been called many things over the years: thrill seeker, billionaire, showman, even madman. But in moments like this, all the noise falls away. What stays is the reminder that behind all the headlines and the world-building entrepreneurship, he was, at his core, a husband who adored his wife.
On the outside, you're this flamboyant, almost playboy type image, but you've been with the same woman for 48 years.
I mean, it's a relationship based on trust. You know, her way of expressing it is she'll let the lead out a bit, and then she knows exactly when to hook it back again.
And their story didn't begin on a private island or at some glamorous event. It started in a small antique shop in London in the late 1970s. Richard was still the young, restless founder of Virgin Records. Brilliant, ambitious, a little chaotic, and definitely not the global icon he would become. Joan was working nearby in an antique store. She was Scottish, witty, self-assured in a quiet way, and completely unimpressed by status or flash. Richard later admitted that he fell for her almost immediately, and instead of grand gestures, his first attempts at winning her over were, well, very un-Branson. He'd make up excuses to stop by her shop, buying old signs, dusty teapots, whatever gave him a reason to linger. The future billionaire pretending to be into antiques, just to talk to a woman who didn't care who he was. And maybe that's why she stood out. She saw him, not the money, not the future tycoon, just Richard. Branson was married to his first wife, Kristen Tomasi, whom he wed in 1972 at the age of 21. She was 20. At the same time, Joan, who was 5 years older than Branson, was also married to her high school sweetheart. Richard and Kristen had divorced in 1979. We were probably a bit too young. I'm still friends with my ex and her children get on well with mine, Branson once told The Guardian. Then came the moment that feels almost mythic in hindsight. Richard heard about a remote island in the British Virgin Islands, Necker Island, and decided to go see it. Not because he needed an island, but because he thought Joan might like it. The price was far beyond what he could afford at the time, and his first offer was laughably low. But the island eventually became his, and later became part of their shared story. They married there in 1989, long after the first spark between them. However, their life together wasn't built on spectacle. They went through real loss. Their first daughter, Claire Sarah, died just days after birth. It was obviously horrendous for Joan. It was not good for me either, he said during an episode of Piers Morgan's Life Stories. A tragedy like that can hollow people out. But Joan stayed steady, and together they rebuilt. They later welcomed 2 more children, Holly and Sam. Through all of Richard's adventures, the balloon flights, the near disasters, the moonshot ideas, Joan was the one who kept their world grounded. She wasn't interested in fame. She stayed out of the spotlight and protected their family from it. Richard often said that she gave him the courage to be himself, not the public persona, the real version, the one only a few people get to see.